Hush you bye, don't you cry. Go to sleepy little baby. When you wake, you will have all the pretty little horses, blacks and bays, dapples and grays, coach and 6 little horses. Now, I don't know whether you recognize that song or not. In case you didn't, it's a lullaby, and it's also an American folk song. Originally, it was an English folk song, as a great many of the American folk songs were, because the United States, as you know, was settled by English people. What is a folk song? Well, that's a pretty good question. I'll give you Webster's Dictionary definition. This is Webster's Dictionary College Edition for your information. Folk song, a song made and handed down among the common people. Folk songs are usually of anonymous authorship and often have many versions. In other words, we don't really know who made up these songs in the first place. All we know is that they came from the people who lived on farms, or worked in mines, or in the lumber woods, or fished the seas and the lakes, or just anyone who worked hard for a living. Most of the time, the songs were not written down. They were learned by the singing of one person to another person. Mothers and fathers would sing them to their children, and the children, when they grew up and had children, would sing them to their children. And so they were passed on all the way down to us. Some of them, of course, have since been written down. And this all came about because we have people who went about the countryside gathering these songs from the older people who still remembered them and putting them down in print with words and music in books, which we can either buy at music stores or read in our libraries. And so we still have the songs, and they are still ours. Now, let's start with an example of how these songs became changed. Sometimes the change was rather great, and sometimes rather small. Here is an example of a song that has a slightly different Old English version than the American version. The Fish's Song is the English title, and The Fish of the Sea is the American title.
Up jumped the heron, the queen of the sea. He sang out, "Old skipper, oh, you can't catch me in this windy old weather, stormy old weather. When the wind blows, we'll all pull together." Up jumped the mackerel with spots on his back. He sang out, "Old skipper, come square your main tack in this windy old weather, stormy old weather. When the wind blows, we'll all pull together." Up jumped the sprat, the smallest of all. He sang out, "Old skipper, come haul your trawl haul in this windy old weather, stormy old weather. When the wind blows, we'll all pull together."
Come, you young sailormen, listen to me. I'll sing you a song of the fish of the sea. Blow, ye winds, westerly, westerly blow. We're bound to the southward, so steady she goes. First comes the whale, the biggest of all. He clomb up aloft and let every sail fall. Blow, ye winds, westerly, westerly blow. the southern, so steady she goes. Next comes the porpoise with his short snout. He went to the wheel, calling ready about. Blow, ye winds, westerly, westerly, blow. We're bound to the southern, so steady she goes. Next comes the smelt, the smallest of all. He jumped to the poop and sung out topsail haul. Blow, ye winds, westerly, westerly, blow. We're bound to the southern, so steady she goes.
Now there was an example of an old English sailing song, or a song of the sea, and its American version. And as you noticed, there wasn't a great deal of difference. Here's an example of an old English song followed by its American version, or one of its American versions, that shows that sometimes the difference was very great indeed. I'll sing one verse of the English version and one verse of the American version. The American one I imagine you've heard in one way or another. The first is called There Were Three Rains, R-A-E-N-S. Later, the word was changed to ravens. That's what it meant. And then in the American version, it was changed to crow. So here we are. There were three rains sat on a tree, down a down, hey, down a down, and they were black as they could be with a down. Said one of them unto his mate, where shall we our breakfast take? With a down, derry, 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 down, down. And now one verse of the American version. There were three crows sat on a tree, Billy McGee McGaw. There were three crows sat on a tree, Billy McGee McGaw. There were three crows sat on a tree, and they were black as a crow could be. And they all flapped their wings and cried, caw, caw, caw. And they all flapped their wings and cried, Billy McGee McGaw. That first example that you heard of the difference between the English and American versions of folk songs is also a very good example of what we call the occupational song, or a song that comes out of a particular occupation or work in which a man, or a woman, of course, is involved in. Here's another very good example. This is also a song about sailing, although this is a different kind of sailing because it's not deep sea sailing. This is a song from the days of the boatmen on rivers of the United States, this particular one from Ohio.
Sing, boatmen dance, boatmen love Miss Mary Ann. Dance, boatmen dance, dance, boatmen dance. Dance all night in the broad daylight and go home with the gals in the morning. Hey ho, boatmen row, sailing down the river on the Ohio. Hey ho, boatmen row, sailing down the river on the Ohio. This old boatman jumped ashore, he spent his money and he worked for more. Dance, boatman, dance, dance, boatman, dance. Dance all night in the broad daylight and go home with the gals in the morning. Hey ho, boatman row, sailing down the river on the Ohio. Hey ho, boatman row, sailing down the river on the Ohio.
When the early settlers of the United States started to move west in order to find a better way of living, or just to find a new place to live, they would take their old songs with them because they had no other form of entertainment except the entertainment that they made up. Here's a pretty good example of a song that started in the British Isles and was sung by the early American settlers and also by the American cowboys later on. This is the Little Mohee. As I went out walking upon a fine day, I got awful lonesome as the day passed away. I sat there amusing myself on the grass, when who should sit by me but a sweet Indian lass. She sat down beside me, took hold of my hand, said, "You be a stranger, all in a strange land." She asked me to marry and gave me her hand, said, "My pappy's a chieftain all over this land. My pappy's a chieftain, and a ruler is he. I'm his only daughter, and my name is Mohee." I answered and told her that it never could be, 'cause I had my own sweetheart in my own country. I had my own sweetheart, and I knew she loved me. Her heart was as true as any Mohee. So I said, "I must leave you, and goodbye, my dear. There's a wind in my canvas, and home I must steer. At home with relations I tried for to see, but there wasn't a one like my little Mohee. And the girl I had trusted proved untrue to me, so I sailed o'er the ocean to my little Mohee. That was an example of a ballad or story song. There were a number of kinds of songs that the early settlers and the pioneers sang. There were the old story ballads, and there were dance songs and children's songs and nonsense songs. And also there were religious songs. The pioneers and the early settlers had great faith in God, and they sang these old songs to remind them of their faith and to express their faith. And here's a fine example of a wonderful old English language hymn. Guide me, O thou great Jehovah.
Guide me, oh, thou great Jehovah, pilgrim through this barren land. I am weak, but thou art my
That was one of the very great religious songs sung by the early settlers and pioneers. I mentioned before that they also sang game songs and play songs and lullabies and so forth. Here's a nice game song. Sometimes it was used as a game and sometimes it was just used as a song, which a child would sing to another child, or a mother would sing to a child, or a father would sing to a child. There were no rules really about who should sing what to whomever. This is called Two Dukes a-Rovin'.
Here comes two dukes a-rovin', a-rovin', a-rovin'. Here comes two dukes a-rovin' to my higher ransom tea. What is your goodwill, sir, goodwill, sir, goodwill, sir? What is your goodwill, sir, to my higher ransom tea? How will it is to marry, to marry, to marry? How will it is to marry to my higher ransom tea? Will you have any one of us, sir, of us, sir, of us, sir? Will you have any one of us, sir, to my higher ransom tea? You look too brown and drowsy and drowsy and drowsy. You look too brown and drowsy to my higher ransom tea. We're quite as fair as you are, as you are, as you are. We're quite as fair as you are to my higher ransom tea. The fairest one that I can see, that I can see, that I can see. The fairest one that I can see. Come along, Johnny, and go with me.
There's another type of song that was sung by the early settlers and the pioneers that I haven't mentioned and should have, and that was the love song or the courting song. Sometimes this particular example that you're going to hear was sung just by one person to another, and sometimes it was sung by a boy and a girl who were courting. I will give my love an apple.
I will give my love an apple without e'er a core. I will give my love a house without e'er a door. I will give my love a palace wherein she may be, and she may unlock it without e'er a key.
How can there be an apple without e'er a core? How can there be a house without e'er a door? How can there be a palace wherein she may be, and she may unlock it without e'er a key?
My head is the apple without e'er a core. My mind is the house without e'er a door. My heart is the palace wherein she may be, and she may unlock it without e'er a key.
Ever since the beginning of the United States, the people have always liked songs which have humor in them, that are fun. They don't necessarily have to make much sense. Here's a pretty good example of that kind of song. It's called Going Downtown. I used to have an old gray horse, weighed 10,000 pounds. Every tooth he had in his head was 18 inches round. I'm going downtown, I'm going downtown, I'm going down to Lynchburg town to carry me tobacco down. That horse, he had a holler tooth, could eat 10 bushel of corn. Every time he opened his mouth, 2 bushel and a half were gone. I'm going downtown, I'm going downtown, I'm going down to Lynchburg town to carry me tobacco down. Once I had a pretty little girl, brought her from the south. And the only fault I had with her, she had too big a mouth. I'm going downtown, I'm going downtown, I'm going down to Lynchburg town to carry me tobacco down. I took her down to the blacksmith shop to get her mouth made small. She opened her mouth to take a breath, swallowed blacksmith shop and all. I'm going downtown, I'm going downtown, I'm going down to Lynchburg town to carry me tobacco down. I'm gonna get some sticks and sand to make my chimney higher, to keep that doggone old tomcat from putting out my fire. I'm going downtown, I'm going downtown, I'm going down to Lynchburg town to carry my tobacco down. Here's another song that isn't meant to be serious. It's sort of a nonsense song. And like a great many American folk songs, it's about animals. This particular one starts off singing about a squirrel.
Squirrel, he's a funny little thing, carries a bushy tail. He steals away the farmer's corn, and he hearts it on the rail, and he hearts it on the rail. Partridge, she's a pretty little thing. She carries a speckled breast. She steals away the farmer's corn. She carries it to her nest. And she carries it to her nest. The possum, he's a cunning little thing. He travels after dark. Ain't afraid of any old thing till he hears old Rattler bark. Until he hears old Rattler bark. The raccoon's tail is ringed all around. Possum's tail is bare. The rabbit ain't got no tail at all, just a little wee bunch of hair. Just a little wee bunch of hair.
That was a nonsense song. Now here's what they called, and still do call, a tall tale song, or a story that couldn't possibly be true. Not a lie, because it doesn't intend to deceive. The singer doesn't expect to be believed, in other words. This is called I Was Born About 1,000 Years Ago. I was born about 1,000 years ago, and there's nothing in the world that I don't know. I saw Peter, Paul, and Moses playing Ring Around the Roses, and I'll lick the guy that says it isn't so. I saw Jonah when he shoved off in the whale, and I thought he'd never live to tell the tale. But old Jonah had eaten garlic, and he gave the whale the colic, so he coughed him up and let him out of jail. There are folk songs on almost any subject. For instance, there are songs that teach lessons. Here's one that teaches a little lesson in how to behave to young girls. It talks about whistling. And at one time long ago, this song would have been taken very seriously. However, today, it's just meant as a comedy song. And the lesson it teaches isn't really very serious. It has a very interesting title, Grandma Grunts. Grandma Grunts is a curious thing. Boys may whistle, girls must sing. This is what I heard her say. 'Twas no longer than yesterday. Boys can whistle, girls must sing, tra-la-la-la-la. Boys can whistle, of course they may. They can whistle the livelong day. Why can't girls whistle too, pray tell, if they manage to do it well? Grandma Grunt said it wouldn't do, gave a very good reason too. Whistling girls and crowing hens always come to some bad ends. Boys can whistle, girls must sing, tra-la-la-la-la. A very important part of the wealth of American folk song is made up of the songs of the American cowboy. The cowboy sang about his work, about the cows, about the danger that always faced him, about the pleasure he would have when his work was all done, and just anything that happened to come into his mind. Many of the tunes of the American cowboy songs were Irish. Here's an example of an American cowboy song with a very Irish tune, which is actually an old Irish song made over just a little to make it an American cowboy song. The Gal I Left Behind Me.
I struck the trail in '79 with the herd strung out behind me. As I jogged along, my mind ran back to the girl I left behind me. The sweet little gal, that true little gal, the gal I left behind me. As I jogged along, my mind ran back to the girl I left behind me. If ever I get off the trail, the Indians say don't find me, I'll make my way straight back again to the gal I left behind me. The sweet little gal, that true little gal, the gal I left behind me. As I jogged along, my mind ran back to the gal I left behind me. Oh, the wind did blow, the rain did flow, the hail did fall and blind me. I thought of the gal, that sweet little gal, the gal I left behind me. The sweet little gal, that true little gal, the gal I left behind me. As I jogged along, my mind ran back to the gal I left behind me. Oh, she rode ahead to the place I said I was always glad to find it. She said, I'm true, when you get through, right back and you will find me. The sweet little gal, that true little gal, the gal I left behind me. As I jogged along, my mind ran back to the gal I left behind me.
Here's another song of the American cowboy. This one, which describes his work. And he works all day on the prairie.
All day on the prairie in the saddle I ride, not even a dog, boys, to trot by my side. My fire I must kindle with the chips gathered round, and boil my own coffee without being ground. I wash in a pool, I wipe on a sack, I carry my wardrobe all on my back. For want of an oven, I cook in a pot, and sleep on the ground for want of a cot. My ceiling's the sky, boys, my floor is the grass, my music's the lowing of herds as they pass. My books are the brooks and my sermons the stones, my parson's a wolf on his pulpit of bones. And then if my cooking is not so complete, you cannot blame me for wanting to eat. But show me the man, boys, who sleeps more profound than this big cowpuncher who sleeps on the ground.
Here's another song of the American cowboy. It's a little different because it comes from a time when the old ranges where the cowboy used to work were beginning to become farms, because the settlers had moved in and were plowing up the soil and planting crops. This is the song of an old cowboy who's not very happy about the change. And he sings, "I'm gonna leave old Texas."
I'm going to leave old Texas now. They've got no place for the longhorn cow. They've plowed and fenced all over the range, and the people there, they're all so strange. I'll take my horse and away I'll go. I'll turn my face down to Mexico. And so, my friends, I bid adieu. I'm a better man for just the knowing of you. I'm a better man for just the knowing of you.
Among the folk songs of the United States and the British Isles, and as a matter of fact of all countries, there are always songs about heroes. Sometimes they are songs about men who actually lived and were written about, and sometimes we're not too sure whether the heroes actually existed. Here is an American song about an American hero, John Henry. John Henry was a little man sitting on his papa's knee. He gave a long and a loud and a lonesome cry, "The hammer be the death of me, the hammer be the death of me." John Henry told his captain, "Lord, a man ain't nothing but a man, but before I'll be driven by your old steam drill, Lord, I'll die with a hammer in my hand. Lord, I'll die with a hammer in my hand." John Henry had a little hammer, handle was made of bone. Every time he hit the steel on the head, Lord, it sunk 2 more inches in the stone. Lord, it sunk 2 more inches in the stone. John Henry walked in the tunnel, had his captain by his side, but the rock so tall, John Henry so small, Lord, he laid down his hammer and he cried. Lord, he laid down his hammer and he cried. John Henry told his shaker, "Shaker, you better pray. If I miss this piece of steel, tomorrow be your burying day. Tomorrow be your burying day." John Henry's captain sat on a rock, says, "I believe my mountain's falling in." John Henry turned around and said, "It's my hammer falling in the wind. It's my hammer falling in the wind." John Henry had a little woman, her name was Polly Ann. John Henry lay sick down on his bed. Polly drove steel like a man. Polly drove steel like a man. John Henry had just one only son. He could stand in the palm of your hand. Last words John Henry said, "Son, don't be a steel driving man. Son, don't be a steel driving man." Took John Henry to the White House, rolled him in the sand. The men from the east and the ladies from the west come to see that good old steel driving man. Come to see that good old steel driving man. There are many more heroes that are sung about in American folk song and written about in American stories. This particular hero that you just heard about, John Henry, was an American Negro. And that brings us to the very important part that the music of the Negro of the United States has played in American folk song. I would like you to hear a very serious song, which is sort of sad and yet has hope to it. This is called Poor Pilgrim.
I am a poor pilgrim of sorrow. I'm in this wide world alone. No hope in this world for tomorrow. I'm striving for heaven, my home. Sometimes I'm both tossed and driven. Sometimes I know not where to roam. I've heard of a city called heaven. I've started to make it my home. My mother, she's reached that pure glory. My father still walks in sin. My sisters and brothers won't own me because I am trying to get in. Sometimes I'm both tossed and driven. Sometimes I know not where to roam. I've heard of a city called heaven. I've started to make it my home.
Sometimes the songs of the American Negro were sad. Sometimes they were very happy. They would use the happy songs to make their life a little happier, because most of the old Negro spirituals of the United States came from the days of slavery. Here's a very good example of a very happy song. His Name So Sweet.
Oh Lord, I've just come from the fountain. I'm just from the fountain, Lord. I just come from the fountain. His name's so sweet. Well, Lord, I've just come from the fountain. I'm just from the fountain, Lord. I just come from the fountain. His name's so sweet. For sinner, do you love Jesus? yes, yes, I do love my Jesus. Say now, do you love Jesus? His name so sweet. Well, Lord, I just come from the fountain. I'm just from the fountain, Lord. I just come from the fountain. His name so sweet. Class leader, do you love Jesus? Yes, yes, I do love my Jesus. Leader, do you love Jesus? His name so sweet. Well, Lord, I just come from the fountain. I'm just from the fountain, Lord. I just come from the fountain. His name so sweet. Zan Elder, do you love Jesus? Yes, yes, I do love my Jesus. Elder, do you love Jesus? His name so sweet. Just come from the fountain. I'm just from the fountain, Lord. I just come from the fountain. His name so sweet. Well, Lord, I just come from the fountain. I'm just from the fountain, Lord. I just come from the fountain. His name so sweet.
These were just a very few of the great many American folk songs. In addition to the many American folk songs in English, there are many, many more American folk songs in other languages that were brought to this country by the people who came to the United States for a good new life. We hope that you will hear more folk songs from recordings, that you will see the words of more folk songs in books at your library. We hope you grow to love folk music because it is a very important part of the music of America. Now, as we began, so we end with the lullaby. Hush you bye, don't you cry. Go to sleepy little baby. When you wake, you will have all the pretty little horses, blacks and bays, dapples and grays, coach and 6 little horses.